This is Luke, who is your father, and shit is wild out there. I'm your host, Jules.
I'm Ricky.
I'm Kenny.
And this is season 2 of Luke, who is your father. This season, we've turned the mic over to you, the listeners, to tell us about your family scandals, trials, and triumphs. And it is not for the faint of heart. A gentle reminder that the opinions and experiences expressed in this episode are those of our guests who we were so lucky to have, especially this week because we had 3, a whole family unit together. You can see this episode and all of our episodes and bonus content by subscribing to Luke, Who Is Your Father on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok at Luke, Who Is Your Father Pod, at Ricky Jump, and at Jules, Who Is Your Father. And follow us on Instagram at Luke, Who Is Your Father, at Ricky Jump, and at Kenny K23. You can also subscribe to our Patreon on their app or at patreon.com/Luke Who Is Your Father. Our Patreon is a place for us to have a little bit of fun, lighten the mood a little bit. Yes, that's an English accent and it's a bolder thing. Lighten the mood a little bit. You'll get access to monthly virtual happy hours with us, special DIA or Daddy Issues Anonymous episodes, and exclusive content. We so appreciate your support and would love if you could just take 1 minute to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Share with a friend, family, ex-boyfriend, ex-roommate, ex-mom, whoever you think would appreciate it, or just enjoy it all together. We are loving all of the reviews we've received so far, both glowing and constructive. And it just really means a lot to us and helps us out when you take the time to write out your thoughts rather than just hitting those 5 stars. So if you have the time, let her rip. We are ready and we are growing thicker skin.
Ready, willing, and
by
able.
the day. If you have a story of your own to share of the Who's Your Daddy variety, you can submit on LukeWhoIsYourFather.com, where you can also read our bios, any mentions in the press, or on other podcasts. We always love to do that as well, and see all of the platforms that we are streaming on. If you are new here, we are triplets who were separated at birth, reunited, and found our biological father through ancestry DNA. And this season, we're really diving into stories that kind of share that same vein, and just stories of the Who Is Your Father variety, whether it's someone that you didn't know, just diving into that relationship more. So we would love to hear anything that you guys have to offer. So for today, we will start out with our favorite question. And I'm going to start with Kendaloni. What is your favorite holiday and why?
Shit. I have a really hard time with this because I kind of just enjoy fall
It's the
and winter,
season.
the holiday season as a whole.
Kendall's favorite holiday is the holiday season.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
I
so
like it.
stoked for fall and winter. So
You just prolong it as long as necessary. Just
I
weave
truly
them
do.
into one another.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I feel
All
that.
of it. Yep.
I feel like a lot of people are going to have that in common with Kendall. I support the opinion. Perfect.
How
Do
about
you have the same one or do you have a different holiday?
I mean, I'm inclined to say that I do have the same one, but I will call out Christmas specifically. Christmas is a time to imagine that you're in Hogwarts. It's a time to imagine that you're in the grand rooms with the red velvet fluffy chairs and eating chocolate frogs and drinking butterbeer. Christmas is just a time to be cozy and be with family.
Ricky's wedding
And go to the
Pinterest
Driscoll.
board is making a lot more sense right now.
Right? Ricky's favorite holiday is, it's not even Christmas, it's
Cozy.
Hogwarts Common Room.
Yeah.
My favorite holiday is Hogwarts Common Room.
We're gonna, Kendall, maybe we should get that for Ricky's birthday gifts. We should buy, you know how you can do that? You can buy like a day, and we should make it Hogwarts Common Room Day.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be
Your own
amazing?
holiday.
Music to my ears. Julianne, what is yours?
Best for last, as usual. I absolutely cannot stand holidays. I don't really like any of them that much. I'm not a hugely festive person, not a decorator. I like going to other people's houses that are decorated for the holidays, but altogether, I am not the most festive person. If I had to pick one,
St. Patrick's Day.
I mean, when I was in college, I used to love St. Patrick's Day, Kendall. You know what? I'm just going to break the mold and go 4th of July, not because of the holiday, but because it's very close to our birthdays. So it's
I think
reminiscent.
our birthday counts as a holiday.
You know what? Fuck 4th of July. My favorite holiday is the 6th of July.
Hell yeah.
Because it is our birthday.
Speaking of holidays, before we move on, it is our guest's birthday this week. So I just want to throw that out there. We'll get into who that is as Julianne introduces, well, all of them. But yeah, don't forget to mention that. And happy birthday!
I absolutely will. Today's guests is the first guest is actually a mutual friend of Ricky's. Her name is Erica, who we found by way of, I believe, TikTok. She's quite the TikToker.
We didn't find her by way of TikTok.
I know we did. I got to know her by way of TikTok. Ricky has mutual friends with her from childhood, young adulthood, and she has quite the story to tell us. It roots in Ancestry, 23andMe, DNA matches, and she was kind enough to be so excited about her story that it's actually going to be Erica, her sister Michelle, and her Daddy Dirk. They are all just 3 incredibly amazing people. And this episode, we're so excited. It's the first time that instead of it being an assault of 3 on one person, it's the 3 of us interviewing a family of 3. Their story is so special. It's actually still unfolding. It's unfolded very, very recently, and having both sisters' perspective and the perspective of their father is just going to be incredibly special. So without further ado, we welcome Erica, Michelle, and Daddy Dirk.
Daddy Dirk.
Go.
Hello, everyone. We are pretty inordinately excited to be joined by Erica, Dirk, and Michelle, our first whole ass family on here. And all of whom are really fun. So this should be, while sometimes heavy in content, light in tone, which we are excited about. First, we have Erica. Erica and I are connected via our mutual friends, Jade and Jake, who I'm sure have gotten a shout out before and will get a shout out again. But Erica is also a badass mama and a prolific TikToker. So go and follow her. We're here with her sister, Michelle, who is a born and raised Chicagoan and a mom to dogs and kitties, which we love over here at Luke, Who Is Your Father? And then we have Dirk, their dad.
The one who started it all.
The one who started it all. Dirk is a sales manager extraordinaire, dad, and badass for being brave enough to be on here with us. Welcome to the family. How are you guys?
We're good.
Good.
Great, yeah.
Good. I also want to mention this is the first podcast that we've recorded where we are all imbibing in a beverage.
Cheers.
An adult beverage. Cheers, everyone. It just
I don't want to show mine because it looks horrendous.
Kendall's drinking out of a foggy mason jar.
It's mostly kombucha.
But yes, we are so excited. Erica and I, again, we know each other through mutual friends who all ended up reaching out to me at the same time and just saying, you know, you absolutely have to have Erica on the podcast because, man, does she have a story to tell. And she has been one of our favorite fans to date, and she is just hilarious. So, Erica, do you want to talk about, what the fuck you're doing here?
Yeah, I would love to. So yeah, basically, Jade and Jacob, I worked with them, and they told me about the podcast when it first came out. I started listening to it. I would travel back to Tennessee for holidays or whatever, and it would just be on the entire time. And so I really got involved very quickly. One of them mentioned that you guys were looking for guests for the show to tell their stories. So I said, that would be great. That would be me, because I do have a sister that I found on 23andMe that I had no idea about. So I think we kind of made the connection, and then it's just been a girl gang ever since, and we've loved it. And then, of course, Dad
Girl
was happy
gang
to join as
plus
well.
Dirk.
Dirk.
Yes.
Dirk.
Yes.
And then I think so Erica right now is in Springfield, Missouri, which is
Yes.
where Ricky went to college and where Kendall and I had many an eventful trip. Like Rick said, Michelle is in Chicago, born and raised there, and lives kind of in the suburbs of Chicago now. And then Dirk is coming to us from Tennessee. So we have a nice little mixed bag.
And our brother, Dirk's son, is in Austin, Texas with you guys. So
We will have to meet
Love it.
him.
Yes, we'll have
a
to meet
meetup.
up.
A meetup is imminent.
Amazing.
yes.
Well, we're so excited to have you. And obviously, having 3 family members on with different vantage points of the story is something that we've only done with ourselves. So we should be able to navigate it, not seamlessly. There's no way, but we should be able to navigate that. And we did think that probably Michelle was best to start with. And as you know, we all like to start at the beginning. So Michelle, in 1 second, why don't you get us started? Okay, amazing. So, Michelle, you are sort of the North Star of this story in a way. So, we'd love to start with you and take us to the beginning and just tell us where and how you grew up.
So I grew up in Chicago. My mother, she had me when she was almost 21, a month before she turned 21. And I was always told that my father was around. I was a surprise. And once I was born, he was around, but he couldn't handle it and left. And she kind of was always very quiet about him. She wouldn't tell me anything I would pry about, ethnicity or just little things that I wanted to know. And she would never give me anything. And she told me like she had signed some sort of contract that he gave up parental rights, and she would not pursue child support. So I'm not sure how much of that is true. Obviously, some of that is not true.
Just to clarify, Michelle, she said it was someone besides me.
Yeah, she gave me a different name, a different person.
No idea. He existed.
Okay.
Vice versa. Sorry.
So I grew up thinking that, I had a father out there that lived in the area still, and just didn't care. Never cared enough to even reach out to me. I had a pretty rough childhood. My mom got married when I was 3, and he was or became an alcoholic. So we had a lot of issues with that. He was abusive. And so it was a rough childhood. And I kind of always had like this little fantasy that, my father was going to come and my real father was going to come and save me. And, it was just, it was a little bit rough at times.
And when you would ask your mom and she would sort of divert you or not give you much information, what exactly would she say?
She would, a lot of times she would say, because she signed this contract that it stated that she would never contact him. And she would never give me his last name. I think I was about 30. And I asked her and she wouldn't tell me. And I said, I'm like, well, what if, if they're in the area and he has other children, I'm like, I could date one. You never know. And so she gave me the last name. And I, I looked him up on Facebook. And I confirmed, I showed her a picture and she confirmed that was him. So I don't know. I don't know exactly where the truth is and not. I told her when I had submitted for the DNA test, and I told her too. I'm like, I might blow up his family. I might make a situation, but I kind of didn't care. I was very kind of bitter about the whole thing. So I was like, you know what, I might at the best get a sibling out of this, but I really had very low expectations.
Mhm. Well, I can certainly understand being bitter. Would you say, when you say, there's a possibility that I might blow up his family, but I was feeling I mean, it sounds like you were feeling like that was well within your right at that point.
Yeah, I figured, I'm 42 now. I was 41 when I did the test, and we're all adults now. If he has children, they're going to be adults, so it's not like I'm,
Yeah.
But if he had to face consequences for that, I didn't really care.
Mhm.
I was a little mad. So
Yeah. And that would be my question. Aside from you thinking that he might show up for you on a white horse, were you also feeling that sense of abandonment from him? Like wondering why he would leave you hanging high and dry in the fashion that your mom said he would or did?
yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he knew about me supposedly, and never tried to reach out. My grandmother lived in the same house that she did when they were dating. My mom lived there at the time. Same phone number. My last name is pretty distinct, and everybody in the area with that last name is related to me and can reach me. So it wouldn't be a hard find. So I just thought that he just couldn't care, and just didn't care that I was out there. And yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow. And I think too, if I had maybe a better family growing up, and a more of a father figure, I probably wouldn't have cared as much.
Yeah, I'm sure. You said your mom got married when you were 3?
Yes.
Okay. And are they still married, I guess?
No, they were together for about 13 years. When I was 15, he actually kicked her out, which is just kind of ironic. I had been like begging her to leave him for years and years, and she just never would. And finally he kicked her out, and that was pretty much the end. I had a little bit of a relationship for a few years, but he's just not a healthy person to have a relationship with for me.
Yeah. So was it more of a distant relationship with him growing up, or was it more of a toxic relationship?
So for the first 3 years, my mother, since she was very young, she lived at home. So I did have my grandparents and my 2 uncles. And so I grew up the first 3 years in a house with 5 adults, and I was kind of the center of attention, and very much, spoiled. And then she took me out of that and made me live with a stranger, basically. And so I had some issues accepting him, and he didn't take that, I think, too well. And then when I was 5, they had my brother. So I have a half brother. And I think, once he maybe had a true child, it was just a different relationship. And we just never got along. We just never did.
Mm-hmm. Have you asked, or did it ever occur to anyone, if you weren't getting along in that capacity at all, to just let you go back and live with your grandparents?
Yes. My grandparents actually at one point wanted to adopt me, and they're from Hawaii, and they had always planned to move back to Hawaii, and they wanted to take me with them. And my mother would not have it. And I have some thoughts about that. I think, it would have been a very beautiful and nice childhood. All her family is there. I would have had a lot of family and a lot of community. And I feel like maybe my mother thought it was a selfless choice at the time, but I think it was actually pretty selfish of her. But yeah, no, my grandparents tried for years. They saw a lot of what was going on and tried to help me. And but yeah, my mother was just not having it.
Yeah, I think we run across that a lot, where a parent thinks that because they're the birth parent, it's their duty no matter what to keep the child, even though it's a totally unsuitable situation for them. Do you subscribe to the belief, like now, are you like, but that's good because I ended up the way that I was and the way that I am and the butterfly effect and what have you? Or can you still look back on that and say, no, I wish that I had had a childhood in Hawaii?
I mean, yeah, I try not to like dwell on those things. You know, I obviously am a product of everything that's happened to me, and so I try to think of that in that way. You know, I am who I am because of everything, and I'm very independent. I think because of a lot of those things, very strong in a lot of ways, and I don't know what kind of person I would have been. So I try not to worry and think about like the what could have been. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Are they still alive and in Hawaii?
No, they're both gone.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I was wanting to make sure that they were okay, but decidedly not. Or yes, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay, so you, like when you were growing up in that environment and becoming a teen and then a young adult, was it really poignantly and heavily weighing on you, or something that was more distant in your mind to figure out exactly who your father was?
No, I mean, I thought I knew who he was, you know, and I didn't. I had actually found him on Facebook when she told me his last name, like 10 or 12 years ago. And I thought about reaching out, and I was like, I don't have anything good to say. I really would. It would be not nice, and so I kind of, I don't know. I almost did the DNA like 5 years ago, and I just wasn't sure, and so I didn't think that there was really anything father-wise out there for me. So it wasn't. I wasn't trying to figure out who he was really.
Right.
When I did do the DNA test, it was really more to maybe find a sibling, and also medical. You go to the doctor and they ask you about your history, and I only have half of the information. So, yeah, I thought it was a good idea to do that at least.
Yeah.
Going back to, because that something stuck out to me, because Ricky and Kendall and I have had to deal with a lot of, mostly Ricky, where people have a lot to say about Ricky's mom giving 2 babies up for adoption. And when you said, I think she felt like that was a selfless choice to keep you, and in your mind, it was more a selfish choice. What did you kind of mean by that?
I think about that situation, and then her, whatever truth there is to her, having my supposed father sign away his rights. I always felt like both of those. She felt like maybe she was the martyr and she was taking the sacrifice for her child. But I think in both instances it wasn't in my best interest, and I think she knew it. And that's what hurts.
It's almost like maybe some pride where like she would have to explain why she let you go or whatever, and
and she didn't want to be a failed mother.
Mm-hmm. Or why someone else would be a better choice. What was your relationship like with your mom before she got married, and then what was your relationship like with your mom after she got married?
So when she got married, I was 3. So I'm not sure. I know we were very close. We were very close through like my preteens and teenage years, but more in a friend way. I think it wasn't necessarily a healthy relationship. She would discuss, her relationship with me, and that's not necessarily things that maybe were appropriate. I think it was more that she wanted a friend. So we never really had like a mother-daughter relationship. The rare occasion she would try to be a mother, I would fight it because it was just, we just kind of had a friend relationship. And it wasn't until I was maybe 19, 20 and really like looking into my trauma and trying to heal. And I tried to confront her about my stepfather and his alcoholism and the abuse. And she took no blame for it. It was, she's the victim, and she would take no responsibility for putting us in that situation and keeping us in that situation. And that's when our relationship started to break down. We didn't talk for years. And then eventually we started talking again, and it was more, either I have no relationship with her or I have like a guarded relationship with her. And we've had a guarded relationship since then.
What was her relationship like with your half brother?
They were always good. He dealt with a lot of the same things that I did. I think, I had it maybe a little rougher. But he definitely dealt with a lot of abuse. It was physical and emotional. And, to this day, my brother's kind of like me. He has a relationship with her, but it's strained. She has a tendency to exaggerate and make things about her and create stories. And so it's hard. It's hard to have, a close relationship with her.
When you say that you have a guarded relationship with her on occasion, if you're speaking at all, same with your brother, does it feel like she is frustrated by that or wants to push that boundary at all?
I do find her, she'll be very, very nice to me. Try to be very kind and I think she wants a better relationship, but she's not willing to do any of the work to get there. I would be absolutely open to having a better relationship with her if she would be willing to discuss any of the myriad of things that have happened. But she's not, and she won't take any blame for it ever. And so until that happens, it is what it is.
And I think that's so poignant with when you're talking about like a younger mom, obviously, to feel like more of a friend. And then there's, just like you said, when she's trying to have a more serious or more authoritative role in your life, I think it's really hard to take that seriously when that respect and authority hasn't been established. So when you look at her relationship with her, do you see almost yourself more in like the parent role or kind of the, as the like wiser or just more informed one in the relationship?
Yeah. And I think it's been like that for a long time. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know if the parent, but I think she needs me more than I need her or seeks me. I've kind of gotten to a point where I don't need her. If I have good news, she's not the first person I call. I don't call, her with something bad happens. Eventually I will, but she's not that person. She's not somebody that I go to or depend on in any way.
And I know that's hard. I'm sorry to hear that, but it's amazing to see you have, kind of stepped into your own, and obviously a rough upbringing, but like you said, made it you exactly who you are.
Mm-hmm. And it's obviously because you've done the work and sought out your own healing. Does she have the language for that? Like, is she able to receive when you're like, I need you to take some form of accountability for what you allowed to happen to me as a child in the situation that you put me in, and acknowledge that you were a victim, but you were also complicit in me being a victim? Are you able to say that to her?
I have said that to her. Yeah, but she doesn't accept that. She'll just say that, she was as much of a victim as me. And yes, she was, but she also has some culpability in the situation. She was the adult. She always said that she had nowhere to go. But when my stepfather kicked her out and us out, we went straight to my grandparents, and we lived there for next 3 years. So it was never she never had anywhere to go. I don't know if it was pride. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but
yeah. Well, it's really remarkable for you to have, it seems like you knew at a really young age to draw that line early with her. And I feel like so many kids are stuck parenting their parents because they didn't have the language or the wherewithal. And now that they have a plethora of resources and conversations that are happening right in front of them, they're still really resistant to it. And now that comes from a source of pride.
Yeah, the irony is that she put me through years of therapy, so like she knew there was an issue, and yeah, what came of my therapy, she wasn't willing to accept. So it's just kind of ironic.
That's so annoying.
frustrating.
That's like the conversation with me and my mom is often, she sort of resents the mindset that I took on after I went to college, which I think is pretty common with parents of that age, or to say that we came away on a different side than we would have been, or woke, or what have you. And you're like, would you prefer I just didn't go? And they sort of adopt a mentality where they're like, yeah, I wish you would have stayed with me and the same forever, which just isn't an option. But it's just such a weird about face that is infuriating, honestly.
What's your relationship like? Because I think that kind of family dynamic can drive siblings closer. What is your relationship like with your brother, half brother?
Yeah, so we were we didn't grow up close. I think in a lot of ways we were kind of pitted against each other. My stepfather very much had a favorite, and so it led to we just weren't very close. And it was more when I was 18 and he would have been 13, that we were not living in the same household. So we started making an effort, and we'd go to the movies, and we had a regular where we'd see each other, and so we built a relationship, and for a very long time we were very close. It's drifted a little these days. He's got some issues. Neither of us have children. I got married just a few years ago. He's never been married. We definitely have some issues,
Yeah. That's so interesting because if that had been, because like the thing that brought me and Julianne back together ultimately was, I don't want to miss out on important moments in this person's life, but it's also because we're triplets. You know what I mean? And because we worked so hard to have a relationship with each other that it just feels like a waste if we're not there for those moments. But when it's a boy and he's younger, I feel like it's less of an inclination to be like, well, I want to be close while you're getting married and potentially going to have children. You know what I mean? I feel like they feel less of FOMO.
Yeah, I try to keep a better relationship with him just because we, when my grandparents passed, when my grandmother passed, she was kind of the glue that held a lot of our family together. And so when she was gone, our family just dwindled, I just felt like. And so we don't have very much. So, I try to keep a good relationship because, again, my mother's not necessarily the most healthy person. He has a relationship with my stepfather, but again, he's not the most healthy person. So I do try to keep a relationship with him. But yeah, I think he's kind of a guy. He just doesn't.
Yeah. I have one last question, and then I'm going to pass it over to you for whoever's questions. And now I'm forgetting what. Oh yeah. So a theme that we've kind of seen, and you had sort of alluded to it just a second ago. You recently married, childless, and he's childless. Is he married at all?
No.
And why do you think you both made those decisions?
Yeah, I think it has to do with a lot with just trauma. Yeah, I don't think I think I'd be a great parent like 90% of the time, and then 10% I don't know, and I don't. Yeah, it was just never something that I was ever felt like I was completely ready to do, and my husband and I talked about it, and I had planned on kids for a while, and I just felt like I was almost ready, and just never really was ready. So it's not something you do when you're almost ready.
It is not.
And I think a lot of people.
Yeah. I think it's my choice because we get so frustrated because sometimes we're like, oh my God, why do you have kids? So to see, and it's a theme a little bit that we're seeing specifically in just kind of the stories that we have been talking about, that some people choose to remain childless. And it's obvious, like you said, it's because of trauma and because of what they experienced growing up. So it's an interesting vein to kind of see run through is when people do have trauma and instead of just brushing, I think it's the people that address it as well,
instead of just brushing it off and saying, okay, let's slap a Band-Aid on this and do the same thing over and over again.
Let's slap a baby Band-Aid on
Yeah,
it.
slap a baby Band-Aid. So I do. I think that's a brave choice. I commend you for that. And I thank you for sharing.
Yeah, we're all a part of that club. Part of me is like, man, if Michelle wasn't so
No
healed,
offense, Erica.
or Dirk. But part of me is like, oh, if Michelle wasn't so healed and so diplomatic, you and your brother could bond over a shared enemy. But
I mean, we do occasionally.
yeah, I can imagine. I'm sort of chomping at the bit because I'm watching Erica listen to you tell this story, and we obviously know why we're all here. And I just, because we're sitting in the middle of a happy ending, you know what I mean? And I just want to get there.
Ruin it.
Okay. So you decide, you said 41?
Yes.
41.
Again, get on YouTube, people. About fell out of my chair.
And
I would have said 32.
Yeah.
oh, thank you.
Easily.
Yeah, I put it off for years, and I wanted to do it, and a little bit was, I don't know if I want my DNA out there. It's just a little
In
scary.
case you commit a murder.
Yeah. And then again, like, I didn't think there was a good. Yeah. I didn't think there was a happy ending. I didn't think there was a good story to it. So if I had known, I would have done it years ago.
Your
wouldn't have done me good.
level, I wish that you could see the juxtaposition between you and some people that we've interviewed this season, where like all they're hoping for is the happy ending by taking that DNA test. And when that doesn't happen, holy shit, it is a disaster.
Devastating. Yeah.
So that's a very wise approach to take. Go on.
So I just finally I did it, and I told my mother I was doing it, and
sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but how did you feel about that? Because did she know that she was lying to you about who your father was?
Did.
Okay.
I
That's
think
what
she
I was.
did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for Julianne to say, I'm sure she was shitting her pants.
I'm sure.
And that's the thing. That's what drives me crazy is even if she didn't know, she had an idea.
Right.
So the fact that I told her I had submitted the test and she didn't say anything to me, and I made a comment. I'm like, I might blow this guy's life up, but I don't really care, and she had nothing to say about it. So yeah. And then about 2 weeks after I did it, I got a match for a half sister, and immediately went on the internet to Google her, and I think we might have talked about this, but I didn't.
Talking at that point.
No, well, she was. I didn't know about it, but yeah. And I did I found her Facebook page and did a little sleuthing, and I saw Dirk, and I was like, well, that's not the name I was given. So that's when I reached out to her.
So were you like, oh no, if I connect with this woman, is there a chance that I am going to tell her that her dad that she thinks is her dad is not her dad?
Yeah, so I got the results on Friday, and I don't think I messaged her until Monday because I didn't know, and I didn't want to blow up her whole life and her whole family. This was right before Thanksgiving too, so it was holidays were coming, and I was really scared. And so yeah, I sent her a little message, and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry.
Do you have your phone with you?
Yeah, can you find it?
Do you have the app? And could
yeah.
you see the message?
And while you're finding that, I just want to say I had no idea that you had sleuthed me and that you already knew who Dad was.
Oh yeah, and I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to come off super creepy.
And when you messaged me, I was almost protecting him, being like, "You give me more information before I reveal him, you slut!" I was so protective. I was like, "Who are you?" And I had no idea you already knew.
No, yeah, the first thing I did was I Googled you, and again, I had all weekend. I just was sitting on this all weekend, and I've had a little bit of experience with Facebook stalking, so I know how to find the goods. So yeah, and I never told Erica that though. I didn't want to seem like a crazy stalker. And I didn't want to come off too strong or, too invasive.
Well, this might be Dirk's first time hearing this news as well.
Yeah, probably.
Also, I want to say, I don't think anybody who does a little research on somebody who they've
Their
found as a
purported
match
sister.
is stalking.
I think you need to be as creepy as you want to be.
Yeah, because what if like you look them up and it's like, ooh.
I didn't want to come off that and be like, Erica, I found your family, your brother, your father, and I know you live. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And you had the privilege to because on your 23andMe, you don't have a picture, you have your first initial and your last name. So I was like, what? I had your last name is very unique, but I had nothing to go off of. But you already had the privilege to be like, oh, we have the same jawline, the cheeks are the same. You could already see the similarities, I'm sure. And then I'm just here in the dark.
Being observed, being perceived.
Did we find this message?
Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
So the initial message. Hi, my name is Michelle. I hope this isn't too weird for you, but you came up as my half sister. I've never met my father and am very curious to learn about that side of my family. Please reach out if you feel comfortable. Thanks. That was it.
And I just want to preface this with, I literally just left therapy when I received this message. I was on my way back to work from therapy, and I was like, what?
Just turn that car around, girl.
Yes. So I said, wow, Michelle, this is such a bombshell. I called my brother, and he's going to send in his kit today, and hopefully you can get linked with him too. Our dad has always been in our lives, and he's a wonderful man. What has your mother told you about your birth father? I'm curious to know if he knows about you.
I'm going to cry. Erica, how long had you been on 23andMe at this point?
Oh, a year at least. And never had any hits.
Okay, so then Michelle, what did you say?
I said, my mother told me his name was blank, and they were very young, and he couldn't handle having a child. But I suspect my mother has either exaggerated the story or completely made it up. There are things that don't add up. Her name is blank, and we were both born and raised in Chicago. I'm so excited at the thought of having more siblings. I have a half brother. I hope this wasn't too much of a shock for you. I was kind of expecting an unknown match, but I must have come out of nowhere. So.
Okay, so Erica, before we transition over to you, because we're entering Erica. Michelle, when you got that hit and she messaged back, and this is the result that you're looking for. You are hoping for additional siblings. You spent your time over the weekend stalking her on Facebook. What the fuck is going through your head? Well, tell me everything.
I was so excited. I never really let myself expect anything from this test. So I was so excited to have a sister. So excited to have found my father. We hadn't connected yet, but just to have a sister it was so exciting to me. And just the fact that she replied. And didn't ignore me or,
lambast
she
you
wasn't
or
interested or she was very open and welcoming. And there was a little bit of, she was a little guarded in the first few messages, and then, but with reason, I came out of nowhere. So
could you sleep? Were you or did you look through and did you see photos of Dirk on her Facebook?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do you see a resemblance there?
I do. It's funny because I'm half Japanese, so we have very different features.
That explains the looking 32 thing, yeah.
The Asian. But yeah, I think especially with Erica, and I don't know if it's just because we're both female, but I see the cheeks and the chin and the nose, and it's a little different, but it's definitely. It's funny because I can see a resemblance.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to. I can't leave this. So I always try and be a little bit cautious about talking shit about people's family, because it's one of those things where it's like, I can talk shit about them, but like if you talk shit about them to me, it's not okay. But it always astonishes me when somebody comes up with a worse story than
Than
the
the truth.
actual story.
Yes.
like why?
We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
The last one we heard was, oh, my mom told me she was on a cross-country road trip. Instead of just saying the truth.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I mean, I might not be entirely sure.
Yeah.
But like, no, he knows about you, and he just totally doesn't want to have anything to do with
And
you.
I think
Well, and
that's
do you think
more
that
to
was to
discourage.
ingratiate- yeah.
Discourage you from going.
And do you think,
looking.
Michelle, that was more to align you with her?
I don't. So I kind of think that maybe the best case scenario, I think, and Dirk is going to tell his side of the story, but I think that she maybe had she found out she was pregnant, and she knew, it was potentially somebody that she didn't really have a relationship, or somebody that she did have a relationship with, and she just chose the person she had a relationship as the father because it was easier, and it was the early 80s, and we didn't have DNA tests, so nobody would find out. So I feel like, yeah, she's just kind of made the choice that was easier for her and just decided that was my father. But again, I don't know exactly where the truth lies.
Did she tell that guy that he was your father?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
So, Michelle, you have made contact with Erica. You've spent the whole weekend stewing over this. You're getting more information by the minute. Did you reveal this to your mom?
I did not tell my mother until, so this was like mid-November when we got the results. I did not tell my mother until end of April, when on my drive down to go to Tennessee to meet everybody.
Oh my gosh.
What a
So I knew I had to tell her before I met everybody, and I literally just waited till the last minute.
What was the reasoning? Was it just something you wanted to keep to yourself?
Partially, originally I wanted to have a face-to-face conversation with her. So I could read her face as I tell her things, or as, but she lives like about 65, 70 miles away. So it was just hard to go and see her, and we were just fighting as well. So I just never got around to it, and I'm a procrastinator. So I waited to the absolute last minute.
Runs in the family.
I love that. Was that you avoiding conflict at all, or truly? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then too, like I also wanted to just be kind of, I think, a little calculated about how I approached it, to try to get the most story out of it as I could. I had to think about how I was gonna tell her, and what questions I would ask, and because I didn't know what she was going to tell me, or what was truth and what was lies. And
So you wanted to be able to fact check her a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Like when you find out your boyfriend's cheating on you and you have all of the information and you give him a chance to tell you the truth, but you're ready to slap him with the PDF document if he doesn't tell you the truth.
Yeah. And I also had calmed down a lot, and I was in a cooler place where I could talk to her rationally. And that's something too. I didn't want to come in too hot, or just blow up and not get anything from her, not get any answers.
This thought has not occurred to me until this very moment in time. Obviously, very mature decision, informed by both experience and age. I've never thought about teenagers now having access to Amazon at 15, 16, 17 years old, buying DNA tests to have any kind of suspicion and getting this kind of information like under their parents' roof while they have no impulse control and making those kind of discoveries, right? We gotta find one of those little fuckers and get their parental consent to come on the podcast.
Is there like a
Age restriction?
An age restriction? Hold on.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's going to be, I'm very interested if, the earth doesn't blow up before then to see how conversations around all of these things change now that people can't get away with it.
Yeah, they can't get away with it.
I like to say, back in the 70s and 80s, everybody, our parents fucked around, and now we're all in the finding out stage right now.
I know we'll get Dirk's when we get to Daddy Dirk, we're gonna find out what it was like for the birth of DNA testing.
It looks like
you can just fucking buy one.
I mean, yeah, they say
they're like, "Are you 18?" Yes.
Before providing a DNA sample for testing, you represent that you are 18 years of older.
Yeah.
So you literally just click that button.
But how much is it?
It's like $135.
That's like a lot for a teenager.
I mean,
not for
if you were desperate to find out.
I just won't. Okay, that thought. Anyway. Okay. Enter Erica.
It's me.
You. Tell us about you growing up.
Oh, Lord. All right. So growing up, it was me and my brother John and my mom and dad. It was great. So mom and dad built the house that we lived in our entire childhood.
Cool.
It was a beautiful property.
Was that in Springfield?
No, it was in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where our dad's still there. So, so beautiful property that we grew up on. We had a wonderful childhood. Dad is the best dad, hands down. That's my dude. My dude, Daddy Dirk. I always rave about him. He's always, he's just my guy. And I think it's a lot to say with him because I don't think that he had the best childhood. So we were talking about earlier, people just kind of repeating the cycle, and Dad was adamant that he was going to break that cycle, and he did. And my mom was a great mom, and it was just me and John our entire lives, and we all kind of lived semi-normal lives. I mean, mom and dad got divorced when I think I was 21, which is the worst decision they could have made. But other than that, John had already moved to Austin, and then it was just me and dad for a while, and we lived together, and I moved to Springfield, and it was all very normal.
Why did you move to Springfield?
So my ex-husband at the time, he got a job transfer here.
Okay.
Your baby daddy?
I need to know.
My baby
more.
daddy. Yes, he got a job transfer here, and we did, we were dating at the time. We did the whole thing, got engaged, married, had 2 children. And then 2022 was an insane year for me. Okay. I'm getting divorced. I'm moving out. I'm figuring out how to be a single mom all by myself. I started a new job with Jacob and Jade. And that was like kind of all the beginning of the year. And I was like, okay, we can take a breather. And then in November, I get this message from Michelle.
Michelle steps in.
Yes.
Enter Michelle.
Yes.
How you were leaving therapy? Did it pop up as like a notification? Oh yeah.
I am the interviewer.
Sorry, I was enthralled.
How far apart in age were you and John?
2 years.
Okay.
So he's 2 years, 2 months to the day older than me. So yeah, it was just very normal. Him and I had a great childhood, and we kind of got along, not really. But that's, just a sibling thing. We're a lot closer now. And he was actually the first person I called after I got Michelle's message. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck is happening right now? And he's very intelligent. He remembers a lot of stuff. And he's like, well, Dad did live in Chicago whenever Michelle would have been born. So that's kind of how that conversation escalated as well.
Oh, very cool.
Mhm.
All right. And I always wonder this because I feel like in life, it's harder to deal with change and like loss and stuff when you see that person or those people every single day. So like I always wonder if divorce at like a later age when you're grown up and kind of doing your own thing versus like formative years is like kind of an easier pill to swallow. Is that your experience at all or
It was maybe easier because I had the like emotional, intelligent bandwidth to realize what was going on. It was not easy though. Obviously, they've
Yeah.
been together my entire life, but it was beneficial. They, towards the end, especially, it was just very unhealthy. And that's being a parent who is also divorced. That's not the image that you want to show your children. You don't want to say, this is love and this is what it's supposed to be just because we're married.
Right.
And honestly, I think that gave me a lot of courage and I don't know, insight into leading my own marriage. So my children were very young. They were 4 and not even 2 whenever Jeff and I divorced. And it just was so much healthier for them. And that's again about breaking the cycle. It's like, we're not going to stay together just because we're married and that's what you're supposed to do. This is so much healthier for our children. And it is. We're great co-parents. Our children are both very happy. So I think ultimately it is a little easier when you're older, but it still sucks when you're young. So
Right. You can kind of flip the trope on its head and be like, we're divorcing for the kids.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that needs to happen a lot more often.
This is really crazy. Maybe it's crazier if you're on the YouTube, but I've never seen a child talk about their parents' divorce, at least intelligently, in front of the parent. And it's really amazing.
Again, Daddy Dirk is my dude. he's honestly, he's the best dad. And a lot of Michelle's story makes me really sad because, I mean, you guys talked very fondly of your fathers as well. And that's a lot about how I feel about Dad. And he knows this. And he is probably like my go-to. He's my number one. We know this. And it breaks my heart for Michelle because she wasn't able to experience, the beauty and the everything that he brings to the table, when she was growing up, especially when you think about the fact that her mom was like, oh, your dad doesn't want you. And that's turned out to be totally not the case. So
I think there was a lot of that when Kendall, because Kendall and I just grew up in a totally different situation than Ricky. And again, it's something that we've encountered time and time again. And I guess it's hard not to. It would be more of a statistical anomaly to have 2 children separated grow up in exactly the same circumstances. But it does. It stirs up a lot of, and we'll ask Michelle too, but I mean, it can guilt almost for being in a situation that can be perceived as healthier or better. So you feel just so bad for the person that grows up in the other situation. And then of course, if you're the one that grows up in the situation that is a little bit less desirable, to then see what could have been, it's just a whole mixed bag. And I know that's tough on both sides, but also I think super beautiful to obviously have found each other now and be able to kind of cross that bridge. Sorry, Kendall, go on ahead.
No, and I think also, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think through doing this, we've kind of learned, like, we feel bad. Ricky doesn't necessarily, like, hold that. And it kind of seems like that's the same thing with Michelle. So I'm wondering if there's, like, something with... you guys are just like, you got like heart of your stock because you had like you had to guard your hearts.
It's normal we feel bad because we would want the best for our sibling, and our sibling doesn't feel bad because they would want the best for us. You know, does that ring true
I
at
think
all?
I'm just a petty bitch.
Yeah, actually.
Kendall's just a word. The jealous type. The jealous type.
Jealous type.
Okay.
So bad. Okay, so Ricky, what did you want to ask Erica?
Why she took a DNA test?
No. I wanted.
Turns
well,
out I'm 100%.
no, the first one to
Canceled.
make the
Straight
joke.
up
Oh, yeah.
canceled.
She's canceled.
Somebody, this is just
Hmm.
funny though. Somebody, I don't remember who coined it. They said, was it you, Michelle? I don't remember. Took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% Dirk Witt.
Yeah, I was gonna post that on Facebook, but
That's the title.
Yeah.
That's the title of the episode. That's the title of the episode. I'm 100% here. Quit.
That's amazing.
Okay.
I mean, my question is not. I'm sure you would get there. I just wanted to know, like, if she got a notification on her phone, or like why she was checking the app.
Okay. Erica, why did you, because Michelle had a reason to take a DNA test, right? A very distinct, I want to figure out who my biological father is. For you, what was your motive there?
I didn't really have one. I just was interested, mainly to see like, oh, what am I? It turns out I'm just really white, but that's neither here nor there.
I could have never guessed.
Who knew? A ginger with blue eyes. Who knew? Yeah, so I did it, and there was actually a deal. It was like Black Friday or something, and me and Dad's current girlfriend, it was like a 2-for-1 or like buy two get this much discount. So we just decided that we were going to do it. And
Dirk, did you protest, or were you like, yeah, cool?
Dirk
Yeah,
is
I wasn't
Lauren
really sure.
Barkov.
You know, I didn't really care, and you know, I didn't know this was going to
Yeah.
Man,
shake out like this.
Yeah.
And since then, I've taken the 23andMe too. It's like, are there any others out there? You know,
Yeah.
so,
we'll circle
Okay.
back.
Yes.
yeah.
We'll circle back.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, so
Somebody
Erica,
help
you
me.
take your DNA test. You get this message. So we've heard it from Michelle's side. Obviously, when she got her results, reached out to you, and obviously got to hear these messages. But tell us really what you were feeling, because this was totally unexpected for you, and how that conversation went with your brother, and then ultimately Daddy Dirk here.
Right. So you always get notifications on 23andMe. It'll say you have new relatives or a relative has messaged you. In my experience, like even through Ancestry, without doing the test, and when people were really big into building their trees, you would get that kind of stuff too. And I always just kind of blew it off because it's fourth cousins, or it's like somebody that may have known your grandmother that's messaging you, trying to figure out their family tree. So when I got the message, it like emails me and it gives me a notification through 23andMe. And again, I was leaving therapy, so I think I turned my phone off of Do Not Disturb, and then like the notifications come up. So I can see the first part of the message, and it says, you know, this may be a surprise to you, but you came up as my half sister. And I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. And to be totally honest, and I think I've told Michelle this too, is I thought it was a scam or something, just because, again, Dad is just the dude. I've never heard a peep about another sibling. And I just know who Dad is as a person. And even if he would have had a child at a young age, I think after he had me and my brother, he would have gone and sought that out 100%. So I'm thinking it's a scam. Again, there's no picture. It's a first initial and her last name, and it's a Japanese last name. And it's just, I was like, what is this? Like, you know, what is this bullshit? You know, and again, I was very protective of Dad. And in the messages, it was kind of like, well, that's not my dad's name. So, you know, you need to tell me more. And then it kind of, it just escalated into, okay, I'll have a conversation with him. And obviously my brother John was shocked, and him and I are trying to figure it out. We also stalked you the second, because you said my name's Michelle. So then I had your first and last name. And so we stalked you immediately. There's not much to find about you, unfortunately. There was like one picture, maybe, I don't know. So then I have the conversation, or I just know I have to tell Dad. I have to get Dad's side of the story. And
Erica,
I'm at,
before that,
Mhm.
did Michelle, because you were like, hairs up, I don't know, this might be a scam, tell me more. When she said, this is what my mom has told me, and it wouldn't surprise me if some of it was fault or made up or whatever.
Exaggerated.
Yeah. Or it was just a lie altogether. Is that when you sort of started to be like, well, okay, that sounds more like.
a little. And if John wouldn't have validated the fact that, well, Dad was in Chicago at the time she would have been born, I think I would have been still a little skeptical about it. But what she was saying was really adding up in the timeline. And again, he was what, 21 or something when this happened?
Yeah, 19, 20, 21, somewhere there.
Yeah, just very young. And, Daddy Dirk's, he's been known to be a little pimp sometimes. Not really, no. Can you even say that word anymore? I don't know. Let's take that out.
Known to be a little player.
Yeah, maybe. Or he's just he's very charming, and he's very, I know a lot of women who fawn over him and, all this other stuff. So I was like, well, this is like my old, like, gross dad, but I can imagine when he's like 20 years old, it's probably the same scenario. So it didn't surprise me.
I think we're going to need some pictures of Dirk.
I have the perfect one, Dad. The one where you're laying in the grass,
Yeah, thanks, Erica.
Okay, so you are sharing this information with John. First of all, was John excited?
John is...
He's not excitable. He's not an excitable guy.
He's a Kendall. He's a Kendall.
Honestly, it does remind me a lot of it. John and I are basically polar opposites.
Yeah.
And they used to call us Dexter and Dee Dee from like Dexter's Laboratory. And it's very fitting. So he's more of like, I want to know the facts and I'm going to dig into this. And it's not very emotional based at all.
Right.
It's kind of just like, this is a statistic and, whatever. So, and I'm just like, oh my God, do I have a sister?
So which one of you decided to tell your dad?
Yeah, because he's not going to take that away. John's not going to get the glory of that. No way.
Okay,
I found it.
So I totally
relishing in breaking
get that.
news.
Oh my God, I totally get that.
Yes.
So you guys did not decide to tell him together.
No, I did tell him that I was going to call Dad.
Okay, and
again, I was at work and I'm very impulsive, and I couldn't. Michelle waited the whole weekend to message me. There's not a shot in hell that I would have been able to wait that long. So I go into a conference room at work and I shut the door and I call him. He's also at work.
At work?
I know.
There's no way.
Like, Erica, how do you go to work
There's
after
no way.
therapy? And then how do you call?
In the middle of work. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're at work. Dirk's at work.
Let's be fair. I couldn't focus, and like I wasn't going to take the day off. I didn't want to use PTO for this, So like there's no shot. It's going to be a quick convo with Dad, and it was fine. Again, it's the impulsivity, or is that even a word?
Yes.
So anyways, I go into a conference room. I call Dad, and he's at work, but I call him all the time, crying, whatever. So he's just like, "Hey, babe, what's going on?" Yes. Or he calls me EK. Hey, EK, what's up?
And Erica, you called him when you knew he was at work?
Sure did, yeah.
Oh my God.
Sure did.
Ruthless.
Consequences of your actions, babe. This is not my fault.
Okay. So you call him, he's at work. He's nonplussed. Okay.
Yes. So he answers and I said, Dad, I have something to tell you. First of all, I'm not kidding. Second of all, I don't know how to tell you, so I'm just going to say it. And he's like, okay. He's probably thinking like, are you pregnant? Like, what is that?
Again?
Yeah, again, girl. Like, I don't know. So I just told him, apparently I have a sister. And the line is silent. And he said, oh. And I said, here's the information that I have. Her mom's name is this. She's this old. She's this. This is her name. This is where she lives. And Dad just, I think, was a little shocked. Not surprisingly. And I said, I didn't know how to tell you, and it's eating me alive. And he said, well, I do remember that woman. And how did you find this out again? And
I
it was
did
like,
have
well,
sexual relations with that woman.
yes, right. And it was, I told him it was a 23andMe, so obviously, if you remember, and when he said that he remembered the woman, that immediately it all clicked. And I was like, it has to be true.
Mhm.
It has to be true. Especially if he remembers her, it had to be something special.
I remember her, but that's not.
Yeah. It wasn't like it was like, oh yeah, I remember her, So
Yeah.
it was, that sealed everything for me. And I think that after I talked to after I talked to Dad, that's when I kind of broke that ice with Michelle and was like, okay, like now that I know that you're not a scammer and you're not full of shit, now.
I'm sorry for treating you like you were. And
And I
Okay.
do remember Erica telling me that she told him and that she wasn't sure if he would want to talk to me or have a relationship with me. And I was like, try to be cool and play it off. And I was happy to have a sister, but I was like a little disappointed. But it was like, I think like not even 12 hours. Like the next morning, she was like, okay, he wants to talk to you. Here's his number. So
He just needed a beat. He needed a
Yeah.
I
set.
need to admit it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of gets into Dirk's part. So Michelle
well, really
or
quick,
Erica.
'cause
Yeah.
Michelle, you were hoping this was the outcome you were hoping for. Erica, how did it feel to know that you had like an actual honest to God sister? Like, were
I
you
was
immediately like,
I was so happy. Because like, again, I was raised with a brother and it's just not the same. Again, we're Dexter and Dee Dee. We're polar opposites. I love him. We love each other, but it's just like, he makes me listen to dumb music. We don't like the same shows. Like, it's just very opposite. So to have a sister was insane, and I was extremely happy. And her and I have talked about this too, where you guys probably feel this too in a way, where it's like once all the math added up, it felt like, oh, that's what I've been missing, or like it just felt so. What's the word? I wasn't shocked. I was just like, oh, it all makes sense now,
yeah.
So
That's
did you
awesome.
immediately launch into after you confirmed with Dirk?
Mhm.
Did you immediately launch into? I don't know. You weren't 8, so did you immediately launch into like, what do you do? Like, what's your favorite this? What was your initial conversation like? Save for obviously needing to build a bridge between Michelle and Dirk.
Well, obviously Dad needed a second to process it. I was all in immediately. And I feel like Michelle was too. And we text for a while. And we finally had a phone call. This is after like her and Dad had talked for a little bit. Her and John had talked for a little bit. And we FaceTimed and we ended up talking for like 2-3 hours, something. And it was just great. And we've kept in contact ever since. We're actually going on a girls' trip next month, which I'm so excited about. And eventually, after talking for a little bit, we all decided to meet. I think that was always kind of the plan, but we just wanted to make sure all the dust had settled and we were all comfortable with it. So Michelle came from Chicago. I came from Springfield. John came from Austin. And we all met at Dad's house.
Oh my God.
And
Man,
before you guys
that's
tell
great.
the reunion story,
Yeah,
we
well,
gotta
Yes,
go
yes,
there.
yes.
But I do want to say I'm so happy that you guys both like kind of found each other and that it was like mutually reciprocated, because we've had stories where that was not the case and it's barely
Sad.
heartbreaking.
Mhm.
And then also I want to say to Dirk that I'm, impressed that you remembered your mom, because we have had a story where they literally
No
got the
recollection.
parents together. And they
Had no
didn't
parents in the
remember
same
each
room.
other.
Did not
Wow.
remember each other.
They were just like, nope, no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Dirk, you get this text message or this phone call from Erica. Where does it take you back to? I'm going to. You get this phone call from Erica. Where are you transported to in time?
Well, obviously back to at Chicago when I lived there, and I only lived there for a few years. And I remembered Michelle's mom. We worked together in a large office, but we weren't really like in the same department or anything. But that's where I knew her from. And I don't know, when Erica called me, I mean, I was just for a few days just devastated that I had a child out there that was never knew her father, never thought she had a father, had wanted anything to do with her. And it's part of my identity is I'm a pretty decent father. And so that really tore at that quite a bit. And it was a lot to handle. And but it was a short period of time. I felt like that, and then it's like I'm just totally blessed now, and I have Michelle in my life, and Eric and John have a sister, and it's just wonderful. And so, but it was really difficult for a little bit. And things happen the way they happen, because if I'd known about her, I probably wouldn't have John and Erica. I probably, things probably wouldn't have worked out the way they did. But again, I knew Michelle's mom not that well, and we were just all out. We're 19 and 20, and just partying and having a good time, and not just us, but whole group, whole office, or whatever. And we had a one-night stand, and that was about it. We never really gelled. We weren't really close, and never did get close. And Michelle's mom came up pregnant, like visibly pregnant, a few months later, and I went to talk to her. I said, is that mine? Said, no, it's so-and-so's. It's the man that she told Michelle. And because I'm like 19 or 20, I'm like, okay, no responsibility. I don't have. I'm peace out. So and really hadn't thought much about it since. And then when it came back, I just it was quite shocking.
So, and Dirk, that's such a valuable perspective. And I told you before we even started recording that I was so excited to talk to all of you, but specifically to you, because it's just a different viewpoint than we've had. And it's something that I've thought about a lot, just like, what is the responsibility of the mother in this situation? And that's kind of where we as women, I think, come from. And then you have to think about the effect that this is going to have on the father, and especially a father. Oh my gosh, I'm going to start crying already. And especially a father like you, who really, you saying that that's a part of your identity is it's just really touching. And and Dirk, I don't blame you. You probably haven't listened to our podcast.
Oh, I have. I've listened to a couple episodes.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them, but yeah.
So Ricky and Kendall and I, we all lost our fathers, and it was really rough for us. And I think because they did embrace that father role so seriously. And so to think, I just really feel for you when you put it that way, thinking that being devastated that you're finding out that you had a daughter that grew up the way that she did. And instead of immediately being angry that this was kept from you, or getting walls up or defenses up, or what does she want from me, anything like that, your immediate reaction was to grieve for her. It's really beautiful, and it's really sad. So you find this out. Go ahead.
No, like I say, it is sad. It's sad that, she had to grow up with what her mother told her.
Yeah.
Her father didn't want anything to do with her. And it just, just breaks my heart. And, despite what Erica said, I'm not the world's greatest dad, but I have tried, and I've tried to break a cycle within our family where we moved around a lot when I was growing up and never really established roots, and it was just rough. And when I got married to Erica's mom, and and back then we did things young. Me and Erica's mom got married when I was 23, and we had John when I was 28, which was actually, and Erica I was 30. We were actually a little bit older than most of the, their friends' parents. But, we built a house. I was 27 years old, and we built that. And I was determined to have one spot for them, a home place that they could always come back to, and all that, and just make it, better than what I had. And that obviously didn't work out quite the way I'd hoped. But, me and Erica's mom had problems. And so I had a little, my mind of a way I wanted my kids to be brought up and nurtured and cared for. And it just could not be further from the ideal with Michelle. It just, it just breaks my heart. It really does.
And I don't want to, again, we don't need to pry or anything like that. But when that was actually the next thing I was going to ask about, was kind of to take it actually when we're taking everything back to the beginning. And we have seen, when we're talking about breaking the cycle, there is such a tendency for fathers to either continue the cycle and that they were grown up in, or really rebel against it and say, okay, I've seen what I don't want to be, so I'm going to really try to be the father that I didn't have. Can you speak a little bit more, if you're comfortable, to how you grew up?
Well, my father probably had a rough childhood as well, and whatever, but he was, he's very, I would say, emotional, psychologically abusive, if not sometimes physical, but just not, he was just, I don't know, he's just an asshole, and not nurturing, not, caring, would, yell at me for stupid stuff that, was, a teaching moment, and he would just, be an ass about it. And of course, I'm also one of 4 kids, so there's, there's all that going on too. But and he just was from that generation, and my mom tried her best, but she didn't have the personality to stand up to that. And so it wasn't a horrible childhood, but it wasn't ideal. And like I said, moving around, I mean, we moved from one state to another when I was a junior in high school, and that was just really affected me, hurt me. And so I was determined not to do that, and I didn't for for a while, but
you never did.
No, did my best for him. Of course, I was not the perfect parent, so I look back, so I would have done things differently, but it was better than what I had. So
yeah.
What's funny to me is you put so much emphasis on not like having that stable household, and you did great at that, and like you didn't want to move us around. And then as soon as me and John got the opportunity, we both moved out of state.
Yeah, y'all pieced out on me. So.
Right.
Well, I think from what we've seen, there's actually, in the conversations that we've had, there's actually a lot to be said of that. That just I think it means he did a great job for you and John to know that you could go and stand on your own 2 feet and always have a home base to come back to.
Yeah.
And no codependency or responsibility to stay somewhere
for your parent.
For your parent.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I'm very proud of them both, and they both have made their own ways independently, and I don't really parent that much anymore. So
I don't know. I call you crying a lot. So
Well, yeah, but
It seems like Erica, I don't know how long you were in therapy, but you were at the very least in therapy, it seems like, when your parents were splitting up. And I don't know if that was the impetus for that. Dirk, are you therapized? Because
yeah, I've
you
been in
seem-
therapy. Yeah, I've been through several rounds, and yeah, sure have.
Yeah, you can
And,
tell.
Yeah.
No, it just like the the whole divorce thing was rough, and breaking up and giving up on the on the dream of being married for forever and having grandkids and come over to the homestead and all that. No, that's all a little rough. And then I went through some addictive behavior as well. Some with alcohol and other things. So but I don't know. Right now I'm in probably one of the best places I've ever been in my life. So it's all good. Now we've got Michelle to add to my another arrow in the quiver, and just so happy about that.
Well, it's not a new notion, and I would hope that someone's told you this, but to say giving up, I think, is a total misnomer. I think a 20 plus year marriage with 3 beautiful children who have gone on to be great people is another quiver.
Yeah,
Or
no,
another
it
arrow
is.
in the quiver. It's an
And I don't know.
accomplishment and it should be celebrated.
Yeah, I don't really mean giving up, but I'm being given up on that macro view of here's how I want my life to be, which was completely the opposite of how I was raised. It was it was hard to do, but and then just divorce and all that's just difficult to go through.
Yeah. And I completely understand that. And again, I think it's when Michelle is talking about how her mom ultimately deciding to keep her in an effort to be selfless, and it was actually a selfish decision, where I think it's almost it's like a mirror, right? Whereas you and your wife staying together might have felt like that would what was selfless, and separating what was selfish, when it's actually the other way around, right? It's selfless to do that for the betterment of yourself, your wife, your kids, and all of that. So when you, and I think I'm trying to decide kind of which part of this I want to dive into. So you meet Michelle's mom at work, one night stand, approach her about this baby. She says, no, it's this guy's, and you kind of just move on past that and go on to meet Erica's mom and have kind of that idyllic stage in your life. And then kind of what I wanted to get into and what I was alluding to before was, so when you find out that you have another daughter and your immediate reaction is sadness, what did you for her, for Michelle, what feelings did you have towards Michelle's mom?
Well, there's some anger there. If I'm going to take it, we're going through what Michelle's mom said to her. So we're going through a third party and a filter there. And we don't know what was really going through her mom's head right at that point. But, the thing is, she didn't really know me that well. And, she, was probably, whether she really thought it was the man that she told Michelle who it was, or she suspected it was me. If she thought it was me, I mean, she didn't know who I was, really. She didn't know if I was going to, cause more complications for her in life than I could solve. So I don't know where she's at. I don't really feel any resentment towards her, because I just don't know, and I hadn't talked to her, so I just can't really say.
Yeah, because I was when we went into the kitchen and I was talking to Ricky, and I was like, okay, I'm so excited to dive into this, because I have mixed feelings, right? There's you read about and you hear about women that become pregnant, and whether or not there's an obligation to tell the father of tell the father that they're pregnant. And we kind of were even like, why don't we actually think about that? Do we feel like, yes, they have a right to know because it is their baby, or is it the woman's right to keep that to herself? Because of kind of what you were just saying, if it's a situation where she doesn't want the father to know that they're having their child, like what kind of obligation is there? So I think I was actually expecting you to come in and say, no, I was angry when I found out about that. And I feel like I had a right to know if she even knew that she was having a child that was mine. So for you to come in and kind of say that you don't harbor resentment or feel that way is interesting. Is that kind of how...
Well,
Michelle,
it's just that,
and I would like to ask, like, Michelle and Dirk, how do you feel about, like, when a woman becomes pregnant, what is their obligation to the man in that situation?
Well, I think morally, yes, there's an obligation. I think legally, no, because there are a lot of unhealthy situations. But yeah, morally, I think that the father has a right to know, and typically, usually should know. Yeah, I just don't think like there should be any legality to it because
Right.
there are a lot of unhealthy situations and certain reasons why woman wouldn't say. But yeah, morally, I think so.
Yeah. What about you, Dirk?
well, the thing is that if I knew Michelle's mother better, I might have a little bit more of a, opinion on that. But as far as like, overall taking us out of the loop here, I don't know, father is an important part of the DNA there, and
Right.
Should have, I feel like they should have an opportunity to, uh, know and been part of her life, and and haven't be denied to being part of her life is what's most upsetting. But again, that's that's all said and done. So it doesn't really, in my case. Now, if you're talking about globally, that's a different story. But in our case, me and Michelle's case, it doesn't matter right now. It's all under the bridge.
Yeah. I think the answer is probably just
Situational.
nuanced, incredibly nuanced.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to who is that person in the mother's life at that point. Yeah.
Because it's also a step that if you're a pregnant woman, you're more likely to be murdered by the person who impregnated you. So if it's that kind of situation, obviously.
And I also think, and this may be a wildly unpopular opinion, but I also think it depends on if you are deciding to keep the baby or not.
Right. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. Okay. Thank you for hashing that out with me. Cause that was one of the first things I thought of. Cause I've had friends who have gotten pregnant and have been like, I'm not telling the father, which in some cases is the best thing to do. But then you have a man like Dirk who that would be a terrible place to be in. So that's what was kind of rolling around in my mind. Okay. So you get
really quick. Also, just one thing. I think that the fact that you straight up like confronted her and asked her if it was yours, that was a big indication of like who you were as a person.
Very true.
Because you very could have like stuck.
You could have been like, "Oh, that looks like bad news. I'm gonna walk the other way down the
I quit. I'm moving to Springfield."
Well, and even to that point, can I go back to your point about if mother even chooses to have the child, and I don't even know if I don't think Erica even knows this, but I've gone through that too, and
I did not know that.
It's the woman's choice, the woman's body, woman's choice that she want to.
Dirk for president.
Not have a child, and at that point in life, then shit a dad can do about it.
I mean, you guys look at the window surrounding him. He's backed up into a.
Overall, it sounds like you came into this conversation first, and Erica, when you told Dirk about Michelle, did you reiterate all of the information that Michelle had given you as far as like, this is who she said, this is who she said the father was. Her father has not been, she hasn't had the greatest relationship with her father. Did you lead with all of that?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of read the messages, I think.
Right.
One, I'm a chronic oversharer, so I'm like, you need to know every detail if I have to know every detail. And I told him the names that were meant, like the mom and the supposed dad. And yeah, he said, oh yeah, I think they were dating at the time, or maybe they were on and off. I don't really know the situation there, but
Can you imagine
yeah.
what a freaking blast from the past? You would be like, oh my God. And then Michelle, when you're listening to Dirk explain how he was feeling when he found out about you, how does that make you feel?
It's funny because I think Eric, before I even talked to Dirk, Erica had told me that he was having some guilt, and I felt terrible because that was not my intention. That's not what I wanted from this. I wasn't. I mean, maybe if it was that guy that knew about me for 42 years, yeah, like he could feel a little bad, but I didn't want Dirk to feel bad. He didn't know about me, and I was a little like apprehensive about even getting into my past because I didn't want to add to that guilt, but I can't. I just it'll come out. I don't really hold back, so eventually it'll all come out.
The never-ending cycle of guilty for someone else being guilty. Just Dirk, thank you so much for sharing the way that you were feeling, because I think it's healing for all of us with the way that we felt about our dads, and to just hear you talk about both of your daughters and yourself in just such aware terms is amazing. So I think it's time to kind of bring it all. So Michelle, so everyone's talked. We've decided we're all going to meet. Michelle, you're on the way there, and you decide to call your mom.
Yeah.
And now it's everyone's story. So we want to hear about calling your mom, what she thought, you guys meeting. We don't need to ask any. We're gonna let you guys have the stage. We'll ask questions if we need to, but tell us from that point to where we are now.
Give us the theater, darling.
The theater, darling. This is show business, baby.
All right.
I thought we were supposed to stop with the British accent, you guys.
Don't cut that out. It's a bonus thing.
I will not.
So I called her on the way down to go meet everybody for the first time. I've kind of talked to both Erica and Dirk about this, but I glossed over it a little. This is a little bit rough. So I called her, and my fatal mistake was telling her I did the DNA test. So I truly think she had 4 or 5 months to
Prepare.
To think of a story, and she came up with the best one, the one that makes her completely innocent and the victim in this situation. So I called and I said, who's Dirk Witt? And she said, oh, is that who the result came up as? And I was like, yeah, who is he? And so she said, they work together, and they were at a party, and she says that she was drugged and raped. And so I asked her, why wouldn't you tell me that maybe this was a possibility? I could see as a kid, there's been 20 plus years of adulthood. We could have had this conversation. Well, I wasn't even sure. Like the story evolves after time. And my thought right then was, I kind of called knowing I was going to get lied to. But I didn't think it was going to be that bad. And I think it shows that I instantly believed Dirk's side and not my mother's, somebody that I hadn't even met and only had known for a few months versus somebody in my whole life, that was in my whole life. And it also really hurt me that she didn't know I was driving down there, but I feel like in her way to not have any blame and to be the victim, she potentially ruined a relationship I could have had with my father, and my sister and my brother. You know, I felt like it was such a selfish thing to do because she tried to put a stain on all of it. You know, luckily, I'm kind of onto her by now, and I didn't really let it get to me. But it just really hurt that she would do that. And I remember Dirk like asking me about it, and I kind of didn't want to get into it because I just felt like it was such a horrible accusation. And knowing Erica and the way she talks about him, and when we made it Facebook official, random people are like, "Oh, you guys are you're the luckiest person. You know, I've been trying to get in that family. He's such a great guy." And so I know in my heart, that what's true and what isn't, and it just hurts me that she would try to, just it's selfish. That's all.
I can literally feel my heart beating in my fingertips. I'm so sorry for all of you. And Michelle, I think it's like you said, it just speaks so much to the fact that you believe someone who you have only known for, a couple of months and not met in person over a person that you believe or known your entire life. And that's exactly why you know what is true and what is not. And I really think it just totally lends itself to your mom told you one incredibly hurtful thing in that your dad wanted nothing to do with you. And I firmly believe that was to align you with her and make you feel indebted to her in some way, because I don't believe that children are indebted to parents. And it seems like she just tried to do that again to align you with her. And we don't diagnose people on this podcast.
And I want to say too that, when people were saying, shit, I'm going to cry.
We're not airing the podcast unless you cry at least once.
I know,
So
God, I
the fine
know.
print.
So, when people are saying, oh, you're so lucky, I've been trying to get in that family for years, it's very true. I specifically think about my best friend. We've been best friends for 20 years. Her name's Emily, and it's a funny joke that we have that Emily is Dad's number one daughter and I was number two. And then when Michelle comes along, Dad's like, "Oh, looks like you're getting bumped to number two, Em." And for me, she's like, "Excuse," she's all offended, and I'm
She's
like,
still
"Well, it's nothing
salty
to get."
about that.
She is so salty. She's still very salty, and she says, "I told her it's nothing to get bumped from 2 to 3, but going from 1 to 2, yeah, that sucks. Trust me, I've been in it for 20 years, But just to talk a little bit more about the kind of person that Dad is. In 2020, Emily's dad passed away. He was an amazing man. Also like my second dad. And Dad shows up to the funeral home, and this is like his daughter or whatever, and hugs her, and he told her, "I just want you to know, if you ever need a dad, I'm always here for you, and I hope that you know that." And that means so much to her, and it's a genuine thing from Dad. So when people say, they're not being, just nice when they say, "Oh, I've been trying to work my way in that family," it's because of him. He doesn't give himself enough credit, clearly. He's an amazing man. And I'm very grateful to have him. I think Michelle's very grateful to have him. I know John is. Very fortunate to have Daddy Dirk in our lives.
I do have to say that the few months I've known him, he's been great. I remember one of our very first text conversations. We were talking about something, and he wrote I think he wrote "Oh, I can tell you're smart, just like me, LOL." And I didn't tell him at the time, but to have a father tell me I'm smart and give me compliments, and it's one of those things that I didn't even know that I needed that, and he's filled a hole that I've had in my heart, and he's shown me nothing but kindness and support, and I'm a stranger to him, and he's just accepted everybody. He's been so accepting, and I never thought that I never dreamed that I could get this result from doing my DNA test. I never dreamed. And everybody's just been so amazing, and it's unbelievable.
You
So
guys are
how
like leaving
did-
us speechless.
How did that first meeting go?
I know. What was it? That's what I
What
was
did
going
you
to say. What was
do?
that like?
I know
It was-
before
Did you go
before
to the
Michelle
zoo?
came. So Daddy Dirk's a big old daddy, okay? He's what, 6'4"? He's just a big stature guy. He always has been. The softest teddy bear, clearly. And I remember I'm like standing in the bathroom, putting makeup on, and he comes in there and he puts his head on my shoulder and he said, I'm so nervous. And like he was almost in tears. Sorry to throw you under the bus, Dad. But he was nervous, but it was a great thing. And Michelle, you can talk about how you were walking into it. That's
Dirk,
a
was
better
that a like, I hope she likes me nervous?
Yeah, yeah, just meeting my daughter. That and that's a big moment in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that was yeah, and Michelle she's been great this whole time too. It's like we text her, call, and talk on the phone, whatever, and she's always we'll talk about this and that. And she's always like, well, that makes me happy for you. She's always like happy for me about this and that, not really putting it on herself or considering her own happiness. She's always concerned about me, and which has been ridiculous, but it's been also very loving.
Can't handle this. You guys can't handle this. Erica, you are quite the fireball. When you met Michelle, or obviously met Michelle and then saw her, and I'm making conjectures here, but when you met Michelle and saw her and your dad together, do they remind you of each other?
A little bit. And we have talked about this, and I think it's very true. I am very type, what is it?
A.
Whatever type, A, extroverted, very like, oh my God. And my brother is totally opposite. Michelle is like the perfect mix. She genuinely is. She's cool as hell, obviously. And she's super intelligent. She's outgoing like me, but she's also very reserved like John. And she's just the perfect mix. She's a lot like Dad, honestly.
Yeah.
Dad raised two extremes, and he's kind of like the mediator. And I think, personality wise, she's the most like Dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I want
probably.
to, and of course we've only known each other for a few minutes here. So I want to go around, and this will be my last question. You guys can take it after this, but if we can get one at a time, what it would like for Erica, what it was like seeing your sister for the first time, and then obviously you and her and your dad together, and then Dirk, what it was like seeing this daughter for the first time, and then her and Erica together, and then Michelle, what it was like seeing your sister for the first time and your dad.
Your new fan.
Yeah. So let's go in order. Michelle, we'll start with you.
Me?
Yeah.
I was so nervous about going to see them. So I was driving down from Chicago. So it's a pretty long drive, about 8 hours. And Erica was texting me like, oh, do you want to meet up for pizza? And at first, like, I had kind of thought we would meet like the next morning and I'd be more prepared. And I was a little nervous about like meeting them that night. And she's like, we'll just have some pizzas and beers at Dad's house and it'll be relaxed. And I'm like, you know what? A little liquid courage.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
A nice, like, chill environment, not a lot of, expectations. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I think it was like within a couple minutes, like it just felt right. I couldn't believe how, like by the end of the night, we're all like singing songs and belting it out, and like I just felt like immediately it was right, and we connected, and there wasn't a lot of awkwardness or tension, or I was shocked, honestly, like because I can be a very reserved, and I just felt right away it was just right. I don't know.
I love that. And of course, we felt the exact same way when we all met each other. Did you see some of yourself in Erica, and did you see some of yourself in Dirk?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I think me and Erica are very different, but like very similar in a lot of ways. It's funny. Yeah, and the same with Dirk. You know, where there's a lot of just odd similarities, or like I think all of us are in sales, which is just an odd. Like, what are the chances? Everybody.
And something specific too is we're all in very random ass sales. Michelle sells garage doors. I'm in industrial refrigeration, and Dad is in, what is that, Dad?
Professional photography.
Professional photography. So like it's all so random.
I love that.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, Erica, seeing Michelle for the first time, and then seeing her and Dirk together,
And John.
and John. Yes,
And
sorry,
John, of course.
John. We love you, John.
All right, first of all, before she starts, here's Erica that night. We all get settled in there. Erica's sitting on the edge of her seat, just grinning like a possum. Just eyes big.
Awesome.
Yep.
Like, it was hilarious. She was just so
Totally
she's over the
excited.
top.
Yeah.
Smitten. I was very smitten.
Oh my gosh.
And it is odd for me because I am very over the top. I think one of the best qualities about myself, though, is I strive to always make people feel comfortable. And I'm very good at picking up on the levels of like, if I feel like you're uncomfortable, I'll cut it out. But if I can encourage you to come out of your shell a little bit, I'm always going to do that. And I think Michelle's mentioned before too, like you couldn't find a more like open person to be like, hey, I'm your sister. Just
Right.
No.
immediately
Got the
accepting and be like,
lottery.
oh my God, what's up, girl? Like just immediately. But to meet her in person, again, it was like a hole that was filled in my heart as well. And I could never explain it. And it just clicked. And, you know, I invited her. I think we talked about going out to dinner. And I was like, well, maybe we should just do dinner at Dad's and have it be more intimate and not. I feel like it's more awkward if you go out. But to feel.
Like to a mall.
Right. Yeah. To a mall, to a movie or something. Crazy.
Freaking lame. And then a restaurant out there. Yeah.
But it was amazing. And again, you know, Dad was nervous. I was nervous. John was nervous. She clicked with John on a different level than she clicked with me, which I think is great. And obviously her dad clicked right away, and it just felt it was such a happy moment for everyone involved. And I would replay it 1,000 times if I could. And hopefully we will, hopefully we will.
And this is amazing for the
very
pod because it was
beautiful.
so recently. Like this is a fresh memory, which is so
Fresh
amazing.
room. Mhm.
Yeah. All right, Dirk.
Well, Michelle just kind of like melded into the family. I mean, we just like, nobody had to, go out of the way to open up or be warm or anything. Everything just kind of, clicked. And then, and we had been talking for 4, 5, 6 months or whatever it was before she came down here. And I was just really happy to see both John and Erica embrace Michelle, and both of them talking to her independently of me, and they're having their own little thing, their own little relationship.
Well, they knew her
just,
first dad.
Yeah, it was just it was great, and and it's been a kind of a awkward. I'm not sure really what the adjective. But kind of a different relationship with. Michelle, I don't want to come on too strong, but then I don't want to be like too slow to respond. So we've just had to find our way and get to know each other and build the relationship from scratch, which was, it's just been a little bit, I don't want to push her too much. And sometimes I feel like I ask her too many questions and things like that, but it's all worked out well. And one of the funnest things to have Michelle is it's kind of died down now because everyone knows, but at the beginning was like when I told my mother and my aunt and uncle who live here, and certain other people that, friends of ours, whatever, when I tell them the story, which is kind of, old hat to us because we've told it and we know it and whatever. But when we tell them, just to see the looks on people's faces and the shock, and it's like, oh, gee, Mom, you have another granddaughter, by the way, and it's just to see those reactions from everybody. It's just been a lot of fun.
Tickled
Really.
you pink, yeah. If and when you guys get sick of telling your story, now you have a podcast to point to and just say, go for
Part of the
it.
podcast.
Go listen to it.
Yeah, everyone knows now. I mean, Erica's went Facebook official with it and tagged Michelle, and Michelle accepted it.
I know,
everyone knows.
And that is,
so.
and let me be very clear too. I definitely got permission because it is my news to share, but it's not at the same time. So it's like, this is your story to tell. If you don't want me to post it, I won't. Like, this is fine. And on the podcast too, I won't do this if you're not comfortable with it. I'm very aware that it's not it is my business, but it's not. This is to me, it's their story,
Yeah.
Michelle, my last question for you, and I'll turn it over to my sisters while I go use the restroom. Given the way that you grew up, I'm wondering, and again, I'm trying to phrase questions in a way that's not like, I bet you felt like this, right? Being with your family, had you ever felt like more yourself?
With my
when you met Erica and Dirk and John, I feel like just the way that you grew up, it might have just been hard to just fully let go and be who you are. How did that feel around those three?
Yeah, I would say, my stepfather could be very critical of me, and because he was an alcoholic, you kind of had to tiptoe around him, and you didn't know who you're going to get sometimes. But yeah, I'm amazed at how healthy and well-adjusted their relationship and their family is. And I mean, I know it's not perfect, but I just look at them and they're just so loving, and everybody's just so open and kind and respectful. Yeah, it's just, it feels at home. It's kind of crazy. And in a lot of ways, I wish we're still kind of getting to know each other. I wish we could just skip to that part and, be best friends. And, it's hard to kind of navigate that. And then especially we're also far apart. I think it would be different if we could just go out to dinner Friday night, and hang out and see each other and connect in that way. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all getting closer every day, and it takes a little bit of time.
That's amazing. Where are you going on your girls' trip?
She's actually coming here. We're going to Lake of the Ozarks.
Oh my
the
goodness.
third sibling, Emily, is coming, or the fourth sibling, Emily, the third sister, is coming. And then Michelle's best friend, oh God, see what
Lauren.
The memory. Lauren, see what I mean? Lauren is coming. So it's me and her, and then our best friends, and then we got shirts made. Michelle got shirts made. Go ahead, Michelle.
Wait, hold on.
What are these shirts like?
Have Kendall and I missed
We missed a sibling.
Did we miss a sibling?
No. Remember Emily, my best friend of 20 years?
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's
Y'all
now
really
daughter
buried the
number
lead
2.
here, and now we need a part 2.
A plot hole.
Okay.
No, now she's daughter number 2. That's
Okay.
all, yeah.
The
Okay, what?
adoptive sister.
Got it.
Let's make sure to clarify on the podcast in front of everyone that Emily is daughter number 2. She's gonna love that.
Daughter number 2. Okay, what are these shirts?
So they say it's cheesy. It's so cheesy. And I asked Eric, I'm like, is this too much? But
think
mine and
anything could
Eric
be
say
too much for
sister, and then our best friend say sister from another mister. So I just thought it would be kind of cute, and I don't know.
I'm obsessed.
Cute.
You guys can get pictures.
I randomly texted Erica one day, and I was like, I think we should do a girls trip with our best friends. And she's like, okay. And I think by the end of the day, we had a plan set.
Sounds about
Basically,
right.
the date and
I would be
everything.
A fly on the wall.
Sisters
I would
of
watch
her-
this like reality TV.
Yes, we
Right.
need a live feed.
Oh, well, maybe someday.
guys,
Maybe
we will just live
someday.
stream you guys. We'll just live stream the channel so you can all tune in and watch.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, assholes.
Just kidding. That's incredible. Well, we're so happy to have a happy ending on the podcast. It doesn't happen very
Yay.
often. And you all have shown incredible strength and grace. And I do want to note, Dirk, that it has not gone overlooked that even with kind of what Michelle revealed towards the end there, that you still came on this podcast and said that you have no resentment in your heart, which I think that just speaks hugely to you. And you're all very, very lucky. And we're so lucky to have gotten to unravel this baby with you. And I know that we want to ask, for old time's sake, a crazy question of the day.
What's her name? What's her name? This one's for you. What is her
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
name? Lynn?
Lynn.
This one's for you,
We
Lynn.
know you're listening. And
We
this
know
one
you're
is for
listening,
you.
Lynn, and this crazy question is just for you.
We'll stay out of it. So Eric, Dirk, and Michelle.
Eric?
Erica, Dirk.
I'm calling her
Michelle.
Eric from now on.
Wait, is there a fourth child? Who's Eric?
What is the craziest tall tale you've ever told?
Dirk
my
and Michelle are
daddy.
like, we've never told any, and Erica's like, what one am I gonna pick?
God, I'll let them go first.
Michelle.
Okay, so I'll go first. I was maybe a little bit of a conniving girl. So in high school, I skipped a lot. I was, troubled youth and all that, and I'd skip class, and so I think I got the idea sophomore year that your mother has to sign off on a lot of paperwork. I just decided sophomore year that I was now going to sign my mother's signature for absolutely everything, so they could never ever catch me in a forgery, because it was just always going to be her signature. So I signed myself out of class constantly. I never got caught.
Brilliant.
So.
I love that.
That is brilliant. You had to have the forethought to be like, I have to start this
Early.
now.
She also got a head start on reparenting herself.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
spent so much time trying to forge her signature, and I was like, you know what?
I'm making a new one.
Gonna be her signature. Yeah.
I love that.
That's really smart, honestly. I love it.
Brilliant.
Dirk, how about you, Big Daddy Dirk?
So tall tale as a lie or a true tale?
Or like an exaggeration,
Like,
or
I definitely never got that girl pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good one.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
I don't know. Probably, the craziest thing I did was when I was pre-Chicago days. So I was like, 18. I was out of high school, probably the summer after high school. I had been working and stuff, and I'd saved my money. It was not even Greyhound, it was Trailways bus lines. They had America Pass or whatever. It's like 3 months, go anywhere you want. And I took this crazy trip and went to Texas, had some friends down there, and then to Arizona, had friends out there, and I would just couch surf and work temporary jobs, and ended up in Boulder, Colorado, and stayed there a month or so. Yeah, I knew one of y'all from, and just ended up just coasting on fumes on the way back. In fact, I had the little money I had left. I went to a grocery store and packed up, snacks and stuff, and had it in the grocery bag and whatever to get me home. And I lost it somewhere, and I had no money. I had no food. I remember stealing a piece of cake off of a bus station restaurant table and eating that. And just coasted home on fumes. It was a wild ride. It was I wouldn't give it up for anything. It was a fun
That
time.
sounds
Dirk goes west. We'll make the tall tale
that
that
sounds
you
legendary.
told your mom that you were staying at a friend's house.
So, Dirk, given this tale, should we be expecting any more 23andMe hits? I'm just
Well,
kidding.
yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I did do a test, but I wasn't excessively playboyish.
I'm projecting. I'm projecting onto you.
I guess I need to do the other one, the ancestry.com or whatever.
Just don't.
Just don't.
Yeah, or that too. Yeah.
Or that
But what
too.
if I have another cool kid?
Oh my
Oh.
God. Dirk is so
Just like
sweet.
grow the family.
Yeah, just spread the pot. All right, Erica, take us home.
Oh, Dad already knows the tall tale I'm about to tell.
Oh, Jesus.
As surprising as it is, like I rarely, I'm not a good liar. It's written all over my face. And I remember in high school, I got in trouble because me and Emily told my parents that we were going to go to the town over and go see a movie and do whatever. Instead, I drove an hour and a half to go see a boyfriend that my parents had forbidden me to see. And I would have got away with it too, but I got a speeding ticket on the way back. And of course, I'm like 16. I was bawling to the cop. I'm saying, please, my parents don't know I'm here. Which, in retrospect, he's probably like, then absolutely you're getting a ticket. But it was in the county that fellow was from. And so obviously they knew. I couldn't pay for it. I told Mom first, as you do. And then she said, you realize I'm not going to tell your dad, right? And I was like, please just tell him.
She was going to make you tell him.
Mm-hmm.
No, she made me tell him. And because I didn't have the money to pay. And even if I would have, I was still on their insurance. They would have found out. And I remember telling Dad, and it was not great. So that's probably the biggest tall tale I've told.
Did you hear mine like that? Where I didn't lie because my parents just weren't home, but I went to go see a boy that lived in Boulder when I was like 17 and he was in college. So inappropriate. And my parents were gone at the time, but when they came home to the directions to CU Boulder on MapQuest on the computer. Like, hello, you freaking idiot. So stupid.
You silly kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that was the same. That was the reason I was forbidden from seeing this guy, because I was 17 and he was 21. So
yep. I get you there, girl.
My mom just didn't forbid it.
Yeah, your mom was like, "Oh, that
nice young man
that's in college, come stay with us." You guys, I wanted to just take a minute to just address each of you individually. First off, Erica, who is the impetus for this whole entire thing. Unbelievably impetus, instigator.
Watch that mouth, Dirk.
We were so excited to have you on. I'm in charge of scheduling people for the podcast, right? So Rick was like, reach out to this girl, we know her. And I was like, okay, sure. And then I started watching your stuff and I was like, holy shit, this girl's fucking funny. I can't wait to have her on. And just to see your spirit throughout this entire thing. Because I know as something of a wild child, you can be misconstrued sometimes as just that. And to see you just have like the most gentle, beautiful, kind, accepting heart throughout all of this is incredible. Michelle, I mean, so for me to talk to someone that's not like me personality wise is always so interesting. And you're and I know I don't know all of you yet. I don't know that crazy side, but so calm, level, and just so strong throughout everything that you've been through, and brave to be able to go through all of this, period. And I'm so happy thank God that you found your family. Daddy Dirk. Oh, God.
Save the best for last.
I know. It's just,
last.
You have the most incredible, beautiful heart. And just the way that you talk about these girls and your son and your family and yourself. And again, just the level of self-awareness and just love and lack of like any negative emotion towards any of this, and the way that you've approached all of it is so beautiful. And you can tell, obviously you can tell in the way that you've raised Erica, and then the
the genes that you have given to Michelle. So it truly has just been such an honor to speak to all three of you. Then thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming on. I feel like it's not a far reach to schedule an Austin trip.
No.
It's
we're
not.
gonna get
Me
on
and
that.
Michelle are planning it because we need to see John.
Yes.
And you guys, Ricky, you may have kissed him. Who knows? We don't know at this point. But
She did.
but yeah, we have to come see John, and you guys would also love John too. He's just, again, we're polar opposites. He's very
I would get
apprehensive.
along really well with John.
You would. He's like,
Yeah,
he's very like,
I
I
think
don't know if I
you
want
would,
to be on the
Kenny.
show. Yeah, you would.
All right, Lee. You gotta break up. Just kidding.
No,
Thank you,
everyone
guys.
needs more friends. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Truly, such a blessing. This is a highlight of the season, which is really saying a lot at this point. So
Oh,
we're
wow,
so
awesome.
appreciative. Yeah. Thank you all. We will
Thank
see
you,
you
guys.
on the other side.
So much love.
Thank you guys.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right. Bye, girls.
Y'all, what a beautiful story.
I'm so obsessed with them.
They're amazing.
It was just touching all the way around. And I think my favorite part, obviously, I think every episode we grow in the like preconceptions that we bring into it or something that we anticipate they're going to say. So to just hear Dirk's really, really unique and for me, unexpected perspective on how he felt upon finding out about Michelle and how he's approached the situation as a whole was just really touching, especially as the three of us miss our dads more and more every single time we do this podcast. So that was, brought me to tears for sure several times.
Yeah, I think my favorite part was really seeing how highly Erica regards her father. She is obsessed with him. She messaged me just as soon as we just got off that video and said, can we just all agree on how cute Daddy Dirk is? So just seeing that in action and then seeing Michelle sort of being so grateful and taking on a little bit of that affinity that Erica has was really special.
I really loved just seeing. I think I'm always just afraid that because I probably projected that people are going to be kind of like holding on to things and holding grudges and being like vindictive and just thinking and listening to Michelle and knowing that she doesn't like lament the past as hard as some people might, and she's just like fully looking forward to embracing the future with her new family, her new additional family. And yeah, just knowing that I think they have a very bright future, and I'm kind of hoping for them to pull like a Kendall and Corey situation.
And move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be so sweet.
Well, Springfield and Chicago, fortunately, are not that far away.
They're not.
It's probably
Okay.
like a 4-hour drive.
I learned that in
and
Ozark.
Daddy Dirk's house in Tennessee can just stay home base.
Yeah.
And another family compound on the
Daddy
way.
Dirk's house is a Hogwarts common room.
I completely understand what you're saying. I also hope that this all culminates with a trip to Austin because holy geez, we got to meet them. We absolutely have to meet them in person. But until we do, we are signing off. In the meantime, we hope you leave feeling a little bit more normal in your own family dynamic, excited for the possibilities, and more curious about the world around you. Have a good week, take things in stride, and leave people better than you found them. We will see you next time. Bye.